The bridge of the starship Orion was a flurry of activity. Lights flickered, alarms blared, and crew members scrambled to their stations. Commander Ava Reynolds stood at the center, her eyes fixed on the main view screen, which displayed the massive Kanama John battleships closing in. All stations, report status. Ava's voice cut through the chaos, commanding immediate attention. Lieutenant Mark Walker glanced up from his console, his face tense. Shields at 50%, Commander. We're taking heavy fire from the Kanama John battleships. Ava's jaw tightened. The Kanama John had been relentless in their assault, and it was clear that Orion couldn't withstand much more. We can't hold them off much longer. We need to activate the protocol. Ensign Sarah Carter, seated at the communications console, looked up, her eyes wide with fear. But Commander, the High Council banned it. We don't even know if it works. Ava turned to Sarah, her expression resolute. Sarah, we don't have a choice. It's either this or total annihilation. Activate the protocol. Now. Sarah hesitated, her fingers hovering over the controls. Yes, ma'am. Activating now. She took a deep breath and entered the command sequence. Mark leaned closer to Ava, his voice low. What's the protocol, Commander? What does it do? It's a weapon, Ava replied, her eyes never leaving the view screen. But not like any we've ever used. It's powered by the human spirit itself. Our determination, our hope, our will to survive. Mark's eyebrows shot up in surprise. That's incredible. But will it be enough? It has to be, Ava said firmly. All hands, brace for impact. As the protocol activated, the Orion emitted a brilliant light that bathed the bridge in an otherworldly glow. The Kanama John ships paused, seemingly unsure of what was happening. On the Kanama John flagship, Captain Zorak stared at the view screen, his mandibles clicking in agitation. What is this? What have humans done? First Officer Lurka analyzed the data, her voice filled with confusion. It appears to be some kind of energy surge, but it's unlike anything we've seen before. Prepare to counterattack, Zorak ordered. We cannot let them succeed. Back on Orion, Sarah monitored the protocol's progress, her voice shaking slightly. Commander, the protocol is online. The energy levels are off the charts. Ava nodded. All right, everyone. This is our moment. Focus your thoughts, your emotions. Channel everything you have into the weapon. Mark shouted to the crew. You heard the commander. Everyone, concentrate. The crew members closed their eyes, focusing intensely. The light from the Orion grew even brighter, enveloping the ship and spreading out toward the Kanama John fleet. On the Kanama John flagship, Lurka's eyes widened in alarm. Captain, the energy is overwhelming our systems. We're losing power. Impossible, Zorak roared. How can this be? Ava's voice rang out across the bridge. Now fire. A beam of pure energy shot from the Orion, striking the Kanama John flagship with unparalleled force. The enemy ships were engulfed in a wave of light, and when it faded, the Kanama John fleet was gone. Mark stared at the view screen in disbelief. We did it. The Kanama John ships are gone. Sarah looked up from her console, her face lit with astonishment. Unbelievable. It actually worked. Ava allowed herself a rare smile. This is just the beginning. We have the power to fight back. Humanity will not go quietly into the night. We will stand, we will fight, and we will win. The crew erupted in cheers, their relief palpable. For the first time in years, they felt a glimmer of hope. Ava turned to Mark and Sarah. We need to inform Earth Command immediately. They need to know that the protocol works and that we have a chance. Sarah nodded, already working on the transmission. Yes, Commander. Sending the message now. Mark stepped closer to Ava, his voice filled with a mix of awe and gratitude. Commander, how did you know it would work? Ava met his gaze, her eyes reflecting the weight of her decision. I didn't, but I believed in our spirit, our resilience. Sometimes that's all we have left to rely on. Sarah's console beeped, signaling an incoming transmission. Commander, it's Earth Command. They want to speak with you. Ava straightened, her expression serious. Patch it through. The holographic image of Admiral John Harris appeared before them, his face a mixture of concern and curiosity. Commander Reynolds, we've received reports of your success. The Kanama John fleet is gone. Yes, Admiral, Ava confirmed. The protocol worked. Against all odds, Harris allowed himself a brief smile. Well done, Commander. You've given us hope. Thank you, sir, Ava replied. But we still have work to do. The Kanama John will be back, and we need to be ready. Mark nodded in agreement. With this weapon, we have a chance to turn the tide. We can go on the offensive. Ava turned to him, her expression determined. Agreed. But we need to be careful. The protocol is powerful, but we can't rely on it alone. We need to rebuild, to strengthen our forces. Sarah looked up from her console, her brow furrowed. What about the rest of the fleet? Can we equip them with the protocol? That's our next step, Ava said firmly. We need to share this technology with every ship, every colony. We need to unify our efforts. Harris's image flickered slightly as he spoke. I'll authorize the necessary resources. Make it happen, Ava. The future of humanity depends on it. Understood, Admiral, Ava replied. We'll get it done. Mark glanced at Ava, his expression serious. Commander, what if the Kanama John have a counter to the protocol? What if they adapt? Ava's eyes were steely. We'll adapt faster. We've proven that human spirit is our greatest weapon. We just need to keep believing in ourselves and each other. Sarah spoke up, her voice filled with concern. And what about the rest of the galaxy? Other species might see our weapon as a threat. We'll need to be diplomats as well as warriors, Ava said. Show them that we're fighting for survival, for freedom. We need allies, not enemies. Mark's voice was firm. And if they don't see it that way, then we'll show them what it means to be human, Ava replied. To stand together, to fight for what we believe in, to never give up. Harris's image nodded. Good luck, Commander. Earth Command out. As the transmission ended, Ava turned to her crew. All right, team. We got our orders. Let's get to work. For Earth. For humanity. Mark raised his fist in a salute. For humanity. Sarah echoed his gesture. For humanity. The bridge was filled with a renewed sense of purpose. Ava looked around at her team, feeling a swell of pride. They had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious. But she knew this was just the beginning. There were still battles to be fought, challenges to be overcome. And she was ready to face them, side by side with her crew. Prepare for our next jump, Ava ordered. We're not done yet. As the Orion moved forward, cutting through the darkness of space, Ava couldn't help but feel a spark of hope. The human spirit had proven itself to be the most powerful weapon of all. And as long as they had that, there was no force in the galaxy that could stand against them. The bridge of the Orion buzzed with activity as the crew processed their recent victory. The air was thick with a mix of relief and lingering tension. Commander Ava Reynolds stood at the center, her mind racing with the possibilities and challenges ahead. Status report, Mark. Ava commanded, her tone calm but firm. Lieutenant Mark Walker, still at his console, quickly scanned the data. The Kanama John fleet has been completely destroyed. No signs of any remaining ships. Shields are recharging, and all systems are stable. Ava nodded, feeling the sense of accomplishment. Good. Let's keep it that way. We can't afford any more surprises. Ensign Sarah Carter, monitoring communications, looked up. Commander, incoming transmission from Earth Command. Patch it through, Ava instructed. The holographic image of Admiral John Harris flickered into view. His expression was a blend of sternness and respect. Commander Reynolds, we've received your report. The Kanama John fleet is gone. Yes, Admiral, Ava confirmed. The protocol worked. The Kanama John threat has been neutralized for now. Admiral Harris allowed himself a rare smile. Against all odds, you've given us hope. Well done, Commander. Thank you, sir, Ava replied, feeling a swell of pride. But we still have work to do. The Kanama John will regroup, and we need to be ready for their return. Mark stepped forward, his voice filled with determination. With this weapon, we have a chance to turn the tide. We can go on the offensive and take the fight to them. Ava nodded. Agreed. But we need to be cautious. The protocol is powerful, but it's not a guaranteed solution. We need to rebuild our forces and strengthen our defenses. Sarah interjected, her voice thoughtful. What about the rest of the fleet? Can we equip them with the protocol? That's our next priority, Ava said firmly. We need to share this technology with every ship and every colony. We need to unify our efforts and present a strong front. Admiral Harris's image flickered slightly as he spoke. I'll authorize the necessary resources. Make it happen, Ava. The future of humanity depends on it. Understood, Admiral. We'll get it done, Ava replied. Harris nodded. Good luck, Commander. Earth command out. As the transmission ended, Ava turned to her crew, her expression resolute. All right, team. We have our orders. Let's get to work. Mark leaned closer to Ava, his voice low. Commander, what if the Kanama John find a way to counter the protocol? What if they adapt? Ava's eyes were steely. We'll adapt faster. We've shown that our greatest weapon is our spirit. We just need to keep believing in ourselves and each other. Sarah looked concerned. And what about the rest of the galaxy? Other species might see our weapon as a threat. We'll need to be diplomats as well as warriors, Ava said. We need to show them that we're fighting for survival, for freedom. We need allies, not enemies. Mark's voice was firm. And if they don't see it that way? Ava met his gaze, her expression unwavering. Then we'll show them what it means to be human, to stand together, to fight for what we believe in, to never give up. The bridge was filled with a renewed sense of purpose. Ava looked around at her team, feeling a swell of pride. They had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious, but she knew this was just the beginning. There were still battles to be fought and challenges to be overcome, and she was ready to face them, side by side with her crew. Prepare for our next jump, Ava ordered. We're not done yet. As the Orion moved forward, cutting through the darkness of space, Ava couldn't help but feel a spark of hope. The human spirit had proven itself to be the most powerful weapon of all. And as long as they had that, there was no force in the galaxy that could stand against them. The crew worked tirelessly over the next few hours, preparing the Orion for its next mission. Engineers and technicians moved through the ship, repairing damage and reinforcing systems. Ava moved among them, offering words of encouragement and making sure everyone was focused. Mark approached her, his expression serious. Commander, I've been thinking. We need to consider the possibility that the Kanama John will retaliate. They won't take this defeat lightly. I know, Ava replied. That's why we need to act quickly. We need to strike before they have a chance to regroup. What's our next target? Mark asked. Ava looked at the tactical display, considering their options. We'll hit their supply lines. Disrupt their logistics. Without resources, their ability to mount a counterattack will be severely limited. Mark nodded. Makes sense. I'll start gathering intelligence on their supply routes. Good. And make sure our allies are informed. We need to coordinate our efforts, Ava said. As Mark moved to carry out his orders, Sarah approached, holding a datapad. Commander, I've compiled a list of ships in our fleet that can be equipped with the protocol. We'll need to modify their systems, but it's doable. Excellent work, Sarah, Ava said, scanning the list. Prioritize the ships with the highest combat readiness. We need to maximize our firepower. Sarah nodded, already making notes. Understood. I'll coordinate with the engineering teams and get started right away. As Sarah left to oversee the modifications, Ava took a moment to reflect. The protocol had given them a powerful weapon, but it also brought new responsibilities. They needed to be careful how they used it, and they needed to ensure it didn't fall into the wrong hands. Ava's thoughts were interrupted by a beep from her console. She glanced at the screen and saw an incoming message from the Orion's medical bay. "Reynolds here. What's the situation?" Dr. Elena Martinez's voice came through the speakers, calm but urgent. "Commander, we have several injured crew members from the last battle. I could use some extra hands down here." "I'll send additional personnel immediately," Ava replied. "How are the injuries?" "Mostly minor, but we have a few serious cases," Dr. Martinez reported. "We'll manage, but it's going to be a long night." "Hang in there, Doctor," Ava said. "We're all in this together." Ava turned to the bridge crew. "I need volunteers to assist in the medical bay. Any takers?" Several hands went up immediately, and Ava nodded in approval. "Good. Report to Dr. Martinez and follow her instructions." As the volunteers headed off to help, Ava felt a surge of gratitude for her crew. They were resilient, resourceful, and ready to face any challenge. She knew she could count on them in the difficult days ahead. The hours passed in a blur of activity as the Orion's crew worked tirelessly to prepare for their next mission. Repairs were completed, systems were upgraded, and the protocol was integrated into more ships in the fleet. Morale was high, buoyed by their recent victory and the promise of more to come. Finally, Ava called a meeting of her senior officers in the briefing room. As they gathered around the table, she took a moment to look at each of them, feeling a deep sense of respect and camaraderie. "Thank you all for your hard work," Ava began. "We've accomplished a lot in a short time, but we have a long road ahead. Our next target is the Kanama John supply lines. Disrupting their logistics will buy us valuable time and weaken their ability to retaliate." Mark spoke up, his voice steady. "We've identified several key supply routes. We'll need to hit them simultaneously to maximize the impact." Sarah nodded in agreement. "Our ships are ready, and the protocol is operational. We have a fighting chance." Ava looked at each of them, her expression serious but hopeful. "This mission is critical. If we succeed, we'll gain a significant advantage. But it won't be easy. The Kanama John won't go down without a fight." Lieutenant Commander David Lee, head of security, spoke up. "We're ready for them, Commander. We'll give it everything we've got." Ava felt a swell of pride in her team. "I know you will. Let's make sure we're prepared for any eventuality. Double-check all systems and coordinate with our allies. We need to present a united front." The officers nodded, each of them focused and determined. Ava felt a surge of confidence. They were ready for the challenges ahead, and they would face them together. As the meeting adjourned, Ava lingered in the briefing room, her thoughts returning to the protocol. It was a powerful tool, but it also carried risks. They needed to use it wisely, and they needed to ensure it didn't fall into the wrong hands. Her thoughts were interrupted by a gentle knock on the door. She looked up to see Mark standing there, his expression concerned. "Commander, a word," he asked. "Of course, Mark. What's on your mind?" Ava replied, motioning for him to sit. Mark took a seat, his face serious. "It's about the protocol. I've been thinking about the potential consequences. If the Kanama John discover how it works, they might try to replicate it." Ava nodded, understanding his concerns. "I've thought about that too. We need to be vigilant. We can't let the technology fall into their hands. We'll need to implement strict security measures and monitor all communications closely." Mark leaned forward, his voice earnest. "And what about our allies? We need to ensure they understand the importance of keeping this technology secure." "Agreed," Ava said. "I'll communicate with our allies personally and emphasize the need for discretion. We're all in this together, and we need to act as one." Mark relaxed slightly, reassured by Ava's words. "Thanks, Commander. I just needed to know we're on the same page. Ava smiled. We are, Mark. We're in this fight together, and we'll see it through to the end. As Mark left the briefing room, Ava took a deep breath. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but she felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious, and she knew they had the strength to continue. She rose from her seat and headed back to the bridge, ready to lead her crew into the next battle. The human spirit had proven itself to be the most powerful weapon of all, and as long as they had that, there was no force in the galaxy that could stand against them. Prepare for our next jump, Ava ordered as she stepped onto the bridge. We're not done yet. The Orion surged forward, cutting through the darkness of space. Ava felt a spark of hope. They had the power to fight back, to stand together, and to win. And as long as they had that, they would continue to defy the odds and forge their own destiny.